That's
They're still working on it too. I hope they fix it.
Nice.
They still need to fix that
I
shit.
think we're 5 minutes in.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's totally okay.
Right.
I don't care. We got the record time. I'm using a big card, so we're good. It's funny. I'm gonna cut through all of this though.
Yeah.
All right. Hi guys, I'm Patrick.
And I'm Adam.
And this is Clocks.
Stock
and
Barrel.
Guys, we're gonna talk about homages in a modern market. Now,
Sensitive topic, guys. Sensitive topic.
That's right. Cover your children's ears.
Turn the video off now if you can't handle it.
Yes.
Just kidding, don't.
If it's Rolex or nothing else. Gosh, there's even, but a Rolex is definitely the most copied design out there. I mean, I don't think people are trying to copy Pateks to sell to someone because
just straight up fakes, yes, but not copies. But it's always the sub.
So
which is the best-selling dive watch, which makes sense. That's why.
Yeah, and sports watches, man. We already addressed this. Buy a sports watch, not that dress watch.
What are you wearing, by the way?
Oh, I've got my Below on today. Little field watch with that 262 course movement.
Yeah, I love that. And I've got my GMT Rolex Pepsi that I picked up last week. Loving it so far. Hasn't left my wrist yet. I've literally slept with it too. So.
You're doing before naps. You're just like, I'm just gonna. Rock this for this nap really quick.
Yeah.
Guess I need to tell the time in my dreams.
Exactly.
So
guys, so homages.
Let's get a disclaimer, I guess. We're going to talk about homages, not necessarily fakes. There's a big difference between a fake and an homage, in case you didn't know. So if I were to go to Chinatown and pick up a Rolex, it's a completely different story from picking up a Squale, okay, in this instance. So we've owned Steinharts and we've owned numerous Squales. This is reference 1545. So this is our and the only
that's the MK2 also, the newest one.
Correct. This is so nice. But on that,
right?
Yeah.
It's so nice. There you go.
I have no problems with this. So homage is one of the big issues is people think it takes away from the market of the brand that makes the original, not necessarily the homage. Usually homages are made in reference to an earlier model from a watch company, but sometimes in this case, you're getting a watch that's kind of similar to what they're marketing now, in this case, Rolex.
This is a great example. I mean, Squale, I would say Squale and Steinhart are the two biggest companies that are
offenders.
You know, that and they have huge followings. That's the thing too. But this
and that upset a lot of people too. Like, you know, when the 1545 came out, like people were upset.
Yeah.
That was an absurdity that Squale wanted to do 1545. Well, that says something. Yeah. They're hurting probably.
Yes.
But the thing is, the case, even the Mark 1, the case quality, the bracelet, the movements, a great ETA movement, 2824.
Phenomenal.
I have no qualms with that.
Yeah, and so obviously this is, you could say a homage, almost a direct ripoff, really, to the Rolex 16610, right? It even has the magnifier date window on there. The one thing that is unique about this is it comes in a root beer dial, which Rolex only had the root beer GMTs in like the 80s and late 70s, I guess, too.
So you're getting something you can't find from their collection.
So it is unique in some way, you know, but I mean, this discussion can even go to the all black, you know, Squale 1545.
Do you feel like it hurts their market? Do you feel like buying a black Squale 1545 hurts Rolex's sales?
Absolutely not. If you're going out to buy a Rolex, you're buying a Rolex,
I don't
right?
think you've even noticed Squale was a brand.
Yeah, exactly. That's the biggest thing is in our little like watch nerd kingdom. Right? No one even knows what a Squale is. Yeah. People are like, Rolex sub, you gotta save for that, you gotta go pay full retail at the Rolex. They don't even know you can buy like, you know, an older one or like a pre-ceramic sub for, you know, around $5,000. For them, it doesn't even matter. So,
yeah, and I don't think it's necessarily hurting because like, especially here in New York, there isn't a Squale store down the street from Rolex. Like, people aren't gonna walk in a Squale after they visit Rolex.
You have to know Squale to want to get this, you know?
Yeah.
And like, you know, there's no way they're hurting because I think the retail for a 16610 Rolex ceramic is like $8,500 right now, right? You can get these brand spanking new online for like $500. I think this one was
for the 500 from the 8,500.
500. So it's a completely different stratosphere. If you're buying this, maybe you can afford a Rolex and you just don't want one. But at the same time, $8,500. Like,
That's a lot. That's a lot to dish out.
99% of the population can't afford an $8,500 watch just hanging out on their wrist.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think some people that might own Rolexes, are just a little spoiled, and a lot of the typical argument you hear is, oh, just save up for a Rolex. Well, you know what? Maybe it's going to take you a decade, literally a decade, with just small savings put aside to get half of what a Rolex would cost. You know what I mean? And like, if you really love the design that much,
here's your option.
Just get a Homage. I mean, that's the thing. I'm wearing a GMT right now, right? This is a 90s pre-ceramic
I'll hold
GMT.
these up together so you get an idea of the aesthetic. So again, this is obviously a different reference here, but you can tell obviously where its inspiration is
But it's still a
coming
Rolex
from.
sports watch, right? You still have that turning
Oyster
bezel,
style
right?
case.
Oyster style case. I mean, everything's pretty similar. And honestly, I mean, this is, like I said, this is a 90s vintage piece, but this quality, I mean, it stands up on it.
The Mark 1 definitely looked a little bit more like these Rolexes in profile. And what I like is now these Mark IIs, and that's the model we have today is the 1545 Mark II. They beefed it up. It sort of has a life of its own now. Like the crown is bigger, the bezel's thicker. This is not inherent to Rolexes. I mean, the modern Rolexes have wider lugs now. Mm-hmm. That's one change.
Ceramic bezel, obviously, which is going to be a big
bezel,
difference.
and I my 1545, the bezel got nicked like day one. Like it's these steel bezels, like the paint's pretty thin. It adds character. So it's like either it bothers you or it doesn't. I'm a little bit of a neat freak, so it did. But guys,
that's great. You got screws in the bracelet. And not to do a review of the Squale, this is an overall homage talk, but with some of these really quality pieces, I mean, I've owned two Steinharts. I've had an Ocean Vintage Military, which is the 55-17 homage, and that Rolex is what, like over $150,000 now for an original. And then I had the Ocean Vintage 1, which is an homage to one of the first Rolex sub references that came out. And I mean, especially with those, like, this is a little bit more touchy of a subject when you have direct homages, but Steinhart just came out with that Paul Newman homage, right? Oof. No one's paying whatever the direct one that was with the white dial. Like, no one's gonna pay $1 million or $500,000 for a Paul Newman. I have no problem at all with homages that are any homages, but especially ones that are, modeled after something that costs as much as a freaking house, man.
Yeah,
or
it's
more.
Not immediately accessible. Now they're doing the modern cosmographs that they've remade that look at that aesthetic. Obviously, Rolex has changed the dial of their modern Daytonas. Yeah. So, is it on the market? Technically, yes. But to address those major issues, does it steal from their market? No, I don't think so. And you know what? I think first and foremost, an homage is like the greatest flattery, the biggest flattery for these companies. Yeah. Like, you have something so successful and so gorgeous that a lot of people want it, and these people are making it accessible to the masses. I mean, this is $500, and a typical Steinhart's about $500 as well. Yeah. So that's right. And again, that's kind of up there too. That's a lot to drop. Yeah, even $500 is a lot of money, for a lot of people. So there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. And I can see the argument. A lot of people say, "Oh, well, how about instead of spending $500 on this Squale, you get something original. Why don't you get a Seiko Sumo, which is a phenomenal watch?" Yeah. But you know what? If you really love that sub look, or whatever type of homage it is, just go for it. You can get a Seiko Sumo, sure. I think it's one of the best watches you can get for sub $1,000. That's one of my issues with homages. Because I have a Borealis Bull Shark coming in, and I bought it sort of as an investment piece, but also because it's a 2,000 meter diver. It's a professional diver in a 42 millimeter case. It's amazing. What they're doing is something that Rolex didn't fit into a case in a look that looks like that. So that's inherently unique. So the thing is, the other issue with the homages, at least for me, is do you get something that looks like something you really like, but that's a little out of your price range, or do you get something unique, like you said? What I really think homages are stealing people away from is a larger market of watches that are wholly unique in design. Like you said, the Seiko Sumo or the Seiko SRPs, the new Turtles, these monsters, for instance. This is something that no other company's ever produced. Yeah. And there's someone who's in the market for this or in the market for this. A few $100s more to get something that's
Yeah.
that looks
And you
like
know-
another watch you could have bought.
I own a couple of these too, and it's really funny because the first one I ever bought was from a Rolex owner who actually had a sub, and he just wanted to try it out and see if this could be his beater, right? I took that one, sold it off, got another one, sold that one, and the person that I sold it to was someone that had a Submariner, the new Hulk, right? The Sub LV. And it just goes to show you that like even Rolex owners don't really care. That for him the LV is kind of an investment piece, and he said it was basically gonna be a safe queen, and he wanted something really similar because he loved the design. And the first thing he said when he put this in his hand was like, "Wow, the quality is like almost just as good as the Rolex," you know. So, you know, if you guys want a Homage, don't get a fake, but if you want a Squale, if you want a Steinhart, if you want a Borealis. I'm sure there's a couple other
there's
companies.
a bunch of micro brands out there.
Alpha does a lot of cheap ones, and I've heard great things about Alpha.
Really,
you know?
I've never touched them, but yeah.
They have the direct Paul Newman Daytona copies, which people love, and there's an article or something. John Mayer owned a Gevril, I think that's how you say it.
Gevril.
Paul Newman, and you know,
Well, those are rarities.
and he has the real one too. So
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
whatever he has.
That does say
623.
something, yeah. So don't, there's no, it's a touchy subject, but there's no need to be offended because you know what? Again, a watch is a watch at the end of the day. This aesthetic, you know, it's very similar to another watch you might have seen, but is it still a decent watch? Yes. In a modern market, I think it's perfectly acceptable. Clearly, because you know what? These are still being marketed and made. When the Mark 1 went away, people were jumping.
Oh my God, those things.
Jumping on these 15.
Yeah, $400 something watch. People were freaking paying ridiculous amount for them.
after a few months of the announcement of the discontinuation.
Exactly. So there's clearly a demand there for these homages, you know?
Yeah. And what's that tell you? That's interesting that the price increased even on an homage. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
So
it shows you the quality is there. And the other thing that I always love to point out too is if someone's wearing a Squale, so you know, in our little watch idiot savvy kingdom, everyone's like, oh, everyone's so opinionated. But if I saw someone wearing a Squale or a Steinhart out, you know, on the subway in New York City, I wouldn't be like, oh, it's so an homage. I'd be like, oh my God, this guy knows what a Squale or what a Steinhart is. Like, I need to go talk to him because he is into watches, you know?
He cares. He actually cares. Yeah.
And you know, for those people that like maybe can tell that know what a Rolex sub is, and then they see that, and then they like, how many people are gonna ask you, oh, is that a Rolex sub? You know, no one's gonna ask you that.
Hardly.
So, yeah, homages. They get the okay from me. You know, when you hold these in your hand and you see the quality. I've had a couple Steinharts, like I said, the quality is phenomenal on that. The steel is great. They use the 316L steel for the Steinharts in this. You know, I'm sure they make the cases in China. You know, it has an ETA 2824, which is all you're ever gonna need in a good, you know, hand winding, hacking automatic movement. So yeah, I think it's a go.
Yeah, don't buy it because it has Swiss on the dial.
Don't get your panties up in a bunch, you know? That's the biggest lesson from today.
It's, you know what, they're being sold because there's a need for it in the market.
Yeah.
They're highly accessible. There's plenty of places you can buy one of these brand new. Would I recommend one? Totally. I mean, I'm actually considering buying the military version of this Squale 1545 because aesthetically, it's just such a charmer. And it's such a well-built watch that how can you not like this watch?
Yeah.
And it's a great nod to some fantastic watches out there.
Yeah.
All those
Steinhart does a great job with that. They have the McQueen GMT. They've even had special editions, you know, for Nomon, which is, I guess, a website out in Singapore that exclusively has a lot of the Squales. And I mean, those limited edition homages are going for, in some cases, double on eBay. You know?
Yeah.
Like I had that vintage, the OVM, you know, the 5517 copy, and that thing, I can't remember what it was limited to, number-wise, but that thing, I made a quick profit on that one. Probably shouldn't tell them that, but yeah.
So guys, the choice is up to you. If you want something that's unique in design, there's plenty out there in the market. I mean, aside from a sports watch that looks like a Submariner. But you know what? It's totally okay, guys. If you wanted something that's fantastic build quality, take it from us. I mean, we've been through so many watches. And I'd go back to the Squale anytime. And I've owned the Squale Tiger. You've owned a 1521. But in their lineup, this is a perfect entry-level diver.
And you know what's great too? If you really want a sub and you're saving up for a sub, get one of these on the secondhand market, wear it for the year or two that you save up for your sub, then sell this one or keep it.
Yeah.
And then
Decide
just
then.
you know?
Geez, like if you actually make the money in that year or two and you still wear the Squale and you enjoy the heck out of it and you realize that having Rolex on the wrist as opposed to Squale, you know, is still important, then buy that sub. But if not, then you've got a lot of money saved in the bank
exactly.
that you can buy a bunch with.
Yeah.
So guys, that's our thoughts. If you like this video, feel free to hit that like button. If you disliked it, that's okay too.
We might have to disable the comments on this one.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. Leave a comment below everywhere.
Leave a comment.
What you guys think.
Yeah, send us your thoughts on homages. We'd love to hear what you think because we all have varying opinions. Again, I don't think ours is necessarily right, but I gotta say, I've had no qualms with homages in the past, and I'm still probably gonna buy some now. Stay tuned for a review of that Borealis, perhaps, whenever I get that.
Yeah, I'm excited to see that too. I've never seen one.
I'm very stoked. I've owned one. It was interesting. But I'll talk about that at a later date, I'm sure. Guys, feel free to hit that subscribe button. Again, if you want to see more videos like this. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks guys. See you next time.
Take care now.